What's going on, you guys? Captain Cody Davis back again for another video here. Obviously, we are not out on the water again, sitting here at the house, hanging out. And I'd like to be out there on the lake, and right before I hit record, I realized I have not been fun fishing or filming or anything out there since the day me and Breezy won that tournament. I haven't even been back to that spot to go check on those fish again. I have been working out there, but I've been fishing more on the south end lately over the past week or so. And the day after that tournament, I had a couple trips lined up, fished them, had to go down to the Keys for my sister-in-law's wedding. Breezy's sister got married down there. We were down there for 4 or 5 days. Then I got home just in time for the mullet run to kick off. I've been over on the coast doing a lot of fishing over there for snook and tarpon. So between not sleeping, doing that, taking care of lake, and fishing out on the lake for work, I just haven't had time to go do any filming, but hopefully that's going to change here shortly, because I do want to get out there and do some more looking around. And there's going to be a lot of things changing out on the lake. The lake's going to be going through some changes here. And that's kind of the point of this video. I got a lot of stuff that people have wanted me to touch on, to talk about. People want a fishing report. And there's some, like I said, the lake's getting ready to go through some changes. We're getting into that time of year. And I was going to touch on kind of what little changes I would be making if I were you guys out on the lake to enhance your outcome out there. Some little changes that are going to help you catch more fish. So we're just going to kind of freeform jazz it and run through the gamut here and just talk about a bunch of stuff in this video. It's going to be another rant video. So we're going to get started, I guess. So the first thing we're going to talk about is something that's been kind of trending on my Facebook page and whatnot, and just on my social media platforms at all. So ever since I posted that Lake Okeechobee sucks video, it's like no matter what I post about the lake, people are just bashing me in the comments. And I'm not a comment reader. I don't really care what people post, but it's just really strange that like the other day, my buddy Brad Gibson weighed in almost 32 pounds in a club tournament. Giant bag. Had one almost 10 pounds. Posted it on Facebook, so I shared the photo. And a lot of people were like bashing me, saying, oh, someone catches a random giant bag and you post it to make it look like the lake is amazing again. Or, wow, that's cool, one big bag. Back in the day, it would have taken, there would have been 7 like that, which is completely false. In the month of September, that wouldn't happen. But people are just like out to get me. And then if I try to defend my side of the story or my case, the first thing they come at me with is, I understand you're a guide and you need, all the positive news coming from Lake Okeechobee to enhance your business and because it's your livelihood. I just want to start off by saying I could care less about that. My and all of us guides on the lake, our business, our customers from up north, from out of state, they don't follow all of the news articles from the state and the fishing reports and the tournament results. They don't follow any of that. They just know Lake Okeechobee is about an awesome lake. It's out of the cold in the wintertime, and they come down here and they spend their money down here in the local towns and with us to take them fishing. And they're going to continue to do that as long as they're catching big fish every time they come down, which they do. So they're happy. The positive, all the negativity and all that doesn't hurt my business, nor is it going to hurt any other guy's business on the lake. So it's not that at all. John from Ontario, Canada is not watching what I share on Facebook. They're just not doing it. So that's not what it is. It's just, it's kind of, to me, the whole thing just makes me feel like bass fishermen are a lot more arrogant and ignorant than I thought. Going back, to it. So everyone says the lake sucks, this and that. And the whole thing with it is like, is the lake different? Yes. To me, it isn't what it used to be in a lot of different ways. A lot of the areas that we used to fish back in the day are no longer there. Things like that. The spraying has definitely taken a toll on the lake. There's no secret there. And that's the other thing. Like, everyone thinks that I just post and talk about all the positives and don't touch on the negatives. I do. I go to the spray meetings. I talk to the people that I'm supposed to talk to. Breezy's a big part of it as well. I want what's best for this lake, and if it's going to help the outcome of the lake, of me sharing negative information about the lake on things that are going on out here as far as algae blooms or copious amounts of spraying. I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring awareness to it because I'm only 30 years old and I plan on guiding on this lake till I'm 75. So if I don't take care of her now, I'm not going to have a place to work or enjoy fishing on forever. And that's what I want to do. So I share the good with the bad, but there's a lot more good on this lake than there is bad. And I understand all these people that grew up out here. The lake doesn't look like it used to, and the fishing isn't as easy. But find me a lake on this continent that is the same as it was 10 years ago. Please find me one. And there are a few exceptions, right? So like we'll go with Lake St. Clair, arguably the best smallmouth fishery in the entire world. But look at what happened there. It took an invasive species to invade that body of water to make it what it is, i.e. those gobies, right? I mean, they kind of just set the whole thing off. There are some lakes in Texas that are popping up, like this O.H. Ivy Lake, right, where they're catching 3 and 4 12+ pounders a day. It's awesome, it's great, but how long is that really going to last where they're catching them that frequently, right? Because I know people from around here that are flying out there to book guides to take part in it. And one of the old sticks out here from the lake, Brett Cannon, is a full-time guide out there now also. And he said it's stupid, it's great, and he's doing it while he can. But he even said over the past year, more and more people are going out there. If you want his information, let me know. I can give any of you that want Brett Cannon's information out there, want to go out there and try to catch those fish. He catches giants out there right now. But every lake, like we'll go with Headwaters again. Headwaters has only been an existing lake, right? I mean, it existed, right? They had kayakers and stuff in there, but it's only been open to the public for, I'm going to say 2 years. And that might even be a little long. I think it's only been open 2 years. When that place opened, people were flooding here with their boats to come fish this place, and for good reason. They were catching 150 bass a day and multiple fish over 10 pounds being caught every weekend. But contrary to what social media might tell you, go there now. It's not shooting fish in a barrel. You could still have an amazing day. You could still catch a fish of a lifetime and catch good numbers of fish. But it's not like you throw a big easy across the hydrilla and 16 fish chase it to the boat like it was. Now, these fish are smarter, they're more educated due to fishing pressure, and you gotta work harder. And that's the same thing that's happening to Lake Okeechobee and every other lake in the country, because bass fishing is not dwindling. It is growing as an industry. Every year, there's more high schools and colleges that have fishing programs, bass fishing programs. There's more anglers that are getting introduced to the sport. And people fall in love with it and go get obsessed with it and go crazy and spend any time off they have. They might fish their home lake, but when these kids are out of school or when people take their vacations, they're traveling to all of these known lakes and fishing them. And so they receive more and more and more pressure each and every year. Name any of them. Look at Lake Chickamauga. I mean, that's probably one of the best lakes in the country. And look at the last time the elites went there. It was tough. And talk to regulars there. It's tough. Any of those lakes, Santee Cooper, the fish are still there. That's the difference where people have to understand. The lake doesn't suck. It's more difficult to catch them due to the fishing pressure. These fish are much more educated, and that's what's going on with Okeechobee. Now, with that being said, the spraying and stuff is making the lake not look as pretty as it was, and it's removing a lot of these popular fishing areas from the lake entirely. Like this mentioned the monkey box, because everyone talks about the monkey box. The box doesn't look anything like it did 5 or 6 years ago, and that is a problem. But the fish, because the monkey box isn't there, doesn't mean the fish die. They don't die. Fish are still living in the lake. It's just harder for them to be set up to be catchable out here. And a lot of these guys are saying, oh, I remember I used to go out there and catch 30 pounds every single day. Whatever. You're going to hear people say that. You're going to hear people say, oh, that's cute. Brad had 31 pounds. 7 years ago, that would have been third place. 35 would have won it, and there would have been 25 bags over 25 pounds. I've been hearing a lot of rumors and stories like that. I knew and know that that's not true, but just to fact check myself, I went back. I dug up ABA, BFLs, just did a lot of research on past tournament weights in history. that was never a thing. My father-in-law's been on this lake his whole life. He doesn't remember that being a thing. Breezy doesn't remember that. Where people were telling me that if you brought in 25 pounds or under, you just threw them back at the Rollins lock. You didn't even weigh in, because 35th place was 28 pounds. And that's complete bullshit. No lake in the country is doing that. And this lake never did it and probably never will do it either. Now, with that being said, there are those magical days or weekends or even weeks or two where things line up like that. And I'm sure there were days like that out on this lake, but there still are today. The last Rollins, I had 28.5 pounds, which is a monster bag, and got 4th place. I remember 2 months before that, my buddy Nick Hoining had 33.5 pounds, and Jared McMillan came in with 29.14, I believe it was, and got 5th. So essentially you had like 5 bags over 30 pounds in one day. And there were multiple giant bags underneath that. It was the stars aligned that weekend. And then I think the weights even carried over, took 33 to win the next day, because there was a tournament on Sunday. And then I think the weekend after that, it took 31. So there are those magical little week or two spurts, and then it'll go back to being a regular lake again. And you still have the chance of catching a 30+ pound bag out there, but the fish aren't firing on all cylinders all the time. And that still happens today, just like it did 10, 15, 30, 100 years ago. So I don't know. I mean, believe what you want, say what you guys want. It doesn't bother me. I'm gonna have my customers that come back repeatedly. And the other funny thing is, all these people that say the lake sucks, there's two radical sides to it. They either A, haven't fished the lake in 7 years, and they just, wherever they're at, doing whatever they're doing, they just like to write on Facebook how it sucks, but they haven't been out here to even see it in 7 years. Or the same people that say it sucks, drive here, get hotel rooms, trailer their boat, spend the gas money and the tackle money in the tackle shops, buy their stuff, enter tournaments out here every single weekend, and they spend hundreds of dollars out here every weekend, but still complain about how bad it sucks. Does it suck really that bad if you're coming out here every single weekend? I don't get it, but they can do whatever they want. It doesn't bother me. But that's about it on that. Second thing that's kind of cool, kind of in that same little category there, I talk about the lake being pressured. And if you look at a map of Lake Okeechobee, like I'm looking one here on my back wall, and you were to take a highlighter and literally highlight what is fished water on Okeechobee, right? So I'm looking at the map now. You take, from Taylor Creek, come down to Eagle Bay, Grassy, you come out, you highlight all of Kings Bar, all the way down from Buckhead, all the way down to Horace Island, Dias Ditch, all that. Fish Eating Bay and stuff, yeah, people fish that, so you might as well put that in there. Go up the box, all the way down, all the way back around, up Ritta, up Kramer, to Pahokee. And that's about it. And then, you can highlight J&S, right? But then there's like that whole Port Mayaca to Pahokee Bear stretch. And then what else are you missing? The whole damn center of the whole entire lake. It's a 730 square mile body of water. And we probably realistically fish 100 miles of it, and that might even be a little bit generous. So 15% of the lake gets fished as a whole, and I always make the joke, if you're on the outside grass line, flipping outside grass, I always make the joke, if those fish get 100 feet out of that grass into the open water, they're safe, because nobody fishes the middle of the lake, aside from Cross Island and the reef and whatnot. No one goes out there and fishes, and for good reason, because you can't really target those bass out there. And I've said it before in videos. We don't have ledges, we don't have drops, we don't have holes or depressions. Those fish literally just suspend, live out there in the open, and roam in giant schools looking for shad. Now, how do I know this? Because my father-in-law grew up commercial fishing for catfish out there. I talk to the commercial cat fishermen all the time at the ramps at Rollins. And they'll tell you, they don't really make it public, I think, because they don't want people getting in their way while they're out there pulling trot lines. But as of recently, they're like, man, as we're pulling the lines as the sun's coming up, it's as far as you can see bass blowing up shad. And I have a very credible source, who I'm not going to name, who weighed a 12.9 pound bass dead on his scale that a commercial cat fisherman caught 3 miles out into this dead center of the lake on a trot line. My guess is a bluegill ate the hook. Bluegill was flopping on the hook. The bass ate the bluegill, sat on there overnight, choked, whatever, it was dead. Usually when they catch those giant bass, they release them alive, but this one was dead, so we brought it in to get weighed in. Caught it 3 miles off the point of Indian Prairie Canal. So if anyone wants to go roam around out there. But the point is, we don't put a dent in catching these fish. Like, there are massive amounts of fish that have never seen a lure, let alone a piece of grass, in my opinion. I think they just live out there in the lake, and when their time is right, they come in and spawn for a week, and they get the hell back out. And I talked, after I heard about that big one, I talked to a few commercial guys out of Clewiston the other morning when I was launching my boats. And you guys getting any bass? They were seine netters. And one guy told me he had 2 over 9 pounds that morning in his seine net and let it go alive and well. And they were 6 miles out into the lake. So that tells you that those fish just roam around out there eating bluegill, shad, whatever they can find. Pretty cool. And kind of touching on this as well, so a big argument that a lot of people are saying that's happening to the lake is the amount of tournament pressure is not only pressuring the fish, making it tougher, but talking about the fish dying afterwards. Like, what's our mortality rate? So a lot of people maybe saw the photos that went around after the 2-day ABA event on Toho. There was like 30 dozen giant dead bass floating outside the Toho Marina the day after the event. That's a shame. You know, that is a shame that happens. And I kind of want to touch on this and kind of state my side of it also. And it's a little bit late to do this because we're getting into the cold water months now. But in the summertime months, I am a big fan of 1 o'clock weigh-ins and less tournaments. I mean, I like fishing in the summer. I feel like I excel as an angler in the summer months and the warmer months. So I want there to be tournaments, but I also take extra precaution when it comes to taking care of my fish in the live well come tournament time. I grew up on the beach. I grew up on the coast where we gaffed everything we caught. I mean, that's all we did. We meat fished. When it comes to bass, I'm the biggest tree hugger in the entire world. I want to take the best care of that bass as I possibly can, whether it's 10 pounds or 2 pounds. I don't like killing a bass for no reason. So, perfect example, that 27 pounds me and Breezy caught. I caught him around Buckhead, the Buckhead Poles. Most of you probably saw it. The tournament was out of Clewiston, and it was rough that morning, all right? Typically on the way back from Buckhead in my boat, I can make it from the Buckhead Poles to Clewiston in about 30 minutes. Sometimes faster, obviously, if I'm really standing on it, but just a good cruising speed, 30 minutes. We left at 1 o'clock from there. We left the fish biting at 1 to take our time to get back to the weigh-in at 3. Now you might ask, why? Because I said it was rough out. I knew we had 27 pounds. I wanted to leave an hour and a half early, but I said, you know what, we got 27, let's just go now. And that was simply just to make sure we did not beat the hell out of our bag of fish in the live well. It ended up taking us 56 minutes to get back to Clewiston. I timed it because I only ran like 33, 34 miles an hour. And I am a stickler when it comes to taking care of these fish in the well. I ice the fish down. You know, I have ice. A lot of people say that the chlorine kills them. I've never had that, but I do a lot of times just freeze for, plastic water bottles to use as ice packs in there. G-juice, keep the water on recirc as long as you can. Check the temperature. It starts getting warm, starts getting dirty. Flush the water, pump new water in, put it on recirc, more G-juice, non-puncturing cold tags, and more ice to cool the water down. And I do that, and I take a lot of time away from my fishing to ensure that my fish are, secure, safe, healthy. That first big one I caught was hooked in the tongue with the jig, gushing blood. Popped a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi open, whichever it was, dumped it down her throat, stops the bleeding, took care of that fish. And that fish, is she alive today? I can't tell you, but I can tell you when I set her in the water after weighing her in, she kicked off stronger than ever. I try to put my fish back in the lake healthier than they came into my live well, So that's something to talk about. Take care of these fish, guys. If you guys know you have a big bag of fish, leave early. Don't fish till the last flip so you have to run your 18-foot Stratus at 60 miles an hour across 3-foot waves and break your backs, your hull, and beat your fish to a death, because they're probably not going to live through that. You know, keeping them in really hot water, stressed out, doing that also is not good. So fish care is a big thing. Now I take care of my fish. Does everybody? No. I'm sure there are people out there that don't do and you know, take the steps, the extra steps that I do to ensure my fish are alive. And that's fine. But I think people should really, you know, go out of their way to try and ensure that their fish stay as healthy as possible. I think it should be a rule in the summer months that you have to have some sort of cooling system in your live well, as far as either frozen water bottles on board or ice. I'm not the man in charge, but that's what I do. I try to do my part. Now, something I will tell you, those photos went around from after that ABA, and I can honestly, I would not lie to you guys, I fished a lot the days after these big tournaments, out of Clewiston, out of Scott Driver. I have never in my life gone out the day after a big event and seen a giant amount of bass dead floating on top like I did in those photos. Will you see one or two? Yeah, you do, every once in a while. Now, is that to say that they weren't dead that night and gators ate them? That could definitely happen, but I've never seen it where it looked like a bomb went off. I mean, I know we have a couple of dead fish here and there, but I think for the most part on our lake, most of our anglers are good about taking care of their fish and you know, keeping them healthy and releasing them, you know, as strong as they came out of the lake in. Now, when the big tours come and things, I don't know. I can't tell you how well they do, but I think our mortality rate is pretty low. And Jim Finley's a good buddy of mine, and he does a lot of volunteering, bumping a lot of fish for these tournaments. And you know, I ask him at the end of the events a lot of times, how many dead fish did we have? I think in the last Rollins it was like 3 out of like 200 boats or something that came in dead or something crazy like that. So that's awesome. And to touch on that point again, and this is not a statistic that I'm encouraging people to do, but I literally and truly think if you started in on January 1st of 2023 and through December 31st of that year, every tournament, whether it was a $20 club tournament, if it was when the elites come, if it was Bass Busters, Rollins, ABAs, BFLs, and everything in between, if every bass was brought into that scales and you put it in a cooler and killed it and gave it to a homeless shelter or something, you're talking thousands upon thousands of bass. If you did it with every tournament, that every fish, not every fish that got weighed in did not go back in that lake, it would not even put a dent in the fishery on Okeechobee. I don't enforce that. I don't think that we should ever do that. But that's how many fish I think are in this lake. There's that many. Randall Tharp said it also in an interview one time. The amount of fish that we catch out of this lake is just a micro percentage of what lives in it. Look at the Rim Canal. We'll just take the Rim Canal for example. That's part of Okeechobee. I truly think there is a giant population of bass that never leave the Rim Canal. They spawn on the bank and they live out there in the deep water. No one fishes it. All that water is not touched in the middle. There's fish that are just not touched at all. And I just think there's millions upon millions of bass out there. So do the tournaments? Yes, in the grand scheme of things, over the big picture, yes, they do not help the fishery. But I don't think the percentage of fish that get removed from the lake because of the tournaments, I don't think you'd even be able to sense it, or there wouldn't be a scale to show it. It'd be so minute because there's that many fish. That's my take on that. Kind of cool. Go run around offshore with all your fancy electronics. Let me know if you catch anything, because that's always me and Breezy's goal every summer. We say we're just going to go out in the middle of the lake, put the trolling motor down, and throw rattle traps till it gets dark. We never do it. But I do know people that have caught them out there when crossing the lake. They see the birds diving, they stop, they have the best morning of their entire life, catch the biggest bag of their entire life, and go back to that same waypoint for the next 20 years and never catch anything. So that does happen. Pretty cool. But enough about that. Let's get into kind of what's going on the lake now. So we're in fall officially. 2 days ago, we had our first north wind of the year. You can feel a little bit of coolness in the air. And then this morning when I worked, it was straight up like winter. Not as far as temperature, but just the conditions. Super dry air, northwest wind, not a cloud in the sky at all. Just one of those crazy bright skies, bright sunrise in the morning. It was it was 65 when I left my house, and it was like in the high 70s for most of the morning, which is cool for this time of year. But here's the thing, guys. This is what I tell a lot of people. A bass on Lake Okeechobee is going to react to a front the same way it reacts to a front. What I mean by that is, if you have a nasty cold front come through where it drops the air temp 40 degrees, the water temperature drops 8 degrees overnight. It's blowing 35 out of the north, high pressure, bright sunny skies, not a cloud in the sky whatsoever, not even to be thought of for 3 days. That's gonna lock those fish down, right? Now, it's gonna lock them down until that water starts to climb up in temperature. If you have a front come through like we had 2 nights ago that drops the air temperature 8 degrees and the water temperature a half a degree, it's high pressure, bluebird skies, you know, at northwest wind, and it was only blowing like 8 mile an hour, 7 mile an hour. It was hardly anything. It's still going to have the same effect on those bass. It's just to what degree and for how long it's going to go on for. So typically what happens, like, you know, if you have your water temperature drop from a severe cold front, some people are still going to catch some fish, flipping some mats and stuff, but for it to really go off, that water temperature usually needs to rise like 6, 7 degrees from the lowest point it's been at. That's kind of my rule of thumb. It comes up 7 degrees, you're starting to see a lot more activity, a lot more getting bit a lot more frequently, things like that. And sometimes that takes 2 or 3 days in the wintertime here for it to do that with the sun. Now, with like what happened today, this morning was terrible. It was super tough. I think we caught like 2 or 3 fish, caught a couple flipping in the west wall, but it was just dead. All the areas I had seen the shad getting blown up on in schooling activity was not happening. The brim were not feeding on the bugs. There were no brim on the beds. It was just almost a completely different lake. Now, like I said, the water temperature didn't really fall. The air temperature barely did anything. I was off the water by 11 o'clock this morning, but I can almost guarantee you, I bet you this afternoon, they chewed. Because they didn't bite in the morning. And it wasn't a severe enough front that had them locked down for the day. It was just like that kind of post-fronty conditions in the morning that probably made it tough. So it's going to change. Now, we're in fall, and I always say we don't really have fall in Florida. We have winter and we have summer. So be on the lookout now. Like all those areas you may have been catching fish, throwing a rattle trap for the past 2 or 3 months where you can go and get a limit real quick. Those fish might start to not be there as much now. The water is also coming up, and I should touch on that. We had a lot of rain down here, so the water came up like 6, 7 inches in the course of like a week and a half, which is a lot for this lake. So you have the water coming up, and you're gonna have the water temperatures starting to kind of fall as well as the air temperatures. So you're already gonna have those Florida bass that their instinct is to follow rising water. On top of the water temperature kind of dropping, they're gonna start to be pushing more towards the backs of these areas, I believe. There were fish kind of roaming around back there eating bluegill the past couple months, but I think there's going to have some fish that are just going back there to be back there in preparation for spawning time. So I caught the 2 fish we caught today. We're further back in an area that I've been fishing the outside of, flipped the outside, didn't get bit, pushed up inside, and caught fish farther inside than I've caught them over the past 2 months. So be on the lookout for that. If you have groups of fish or you have some certain areas where you're not really getting bit, don't be afraid to push up inside. Start doing your homework. Keep your eyes out. Look for new areas as the water's rising and you continually to go back, continually press forward more, further back into the backwater marshes. Keep an eye out. Look for areas that look like they've maybe opened up a little bit over the summer, or maybe look for some new growth, different grasses. Look for spawning areas so that you're ahead of the game. So when that lake gets up to 14 foot, you could say, oh man, I remember this little pocket I found. When I say, I mean a spot, it might be a spot the size of this pool table my camera's on. A spot the size of a pool table could hold 2 or 3 8-pounders at times, in the winter time. So keep eyes out for good bottom, changing areas, and areas that fish you think might want to push back into and spawn. You might not get bit there now, but just in preparation for when it comes up. I remember there was an area I found last year just south of Tin House Cove. A lot of you watching this probably fished this area. There was a big pocket. There was 3 big giant mats of hydrilla. There were 2 poles, white shiner poles in the middle of all 3 of them. And I remember I found that in August. And I got stuck back there. I had to actually get out of my boat and push, and I was on the phone with Kelly. I said, well, I found us an area for this winter. So obviously they're not back there now, but so when it starts getting cold and this water comes up, they're gonna spawn around this hydrilla. Sure enough, when we finally got around to going to check it, it was a community hole. I know a lot of tournaments were won out of there. A lot of people caught a lot of big fish. My buddy Papo Rojas was catching a lot of big fish back there. But that's the thing. I mean, keep your eyes open for things that might develop over time. And follow your fish. I mean, I've been catching all my fish on the outside. Just know a lot of them are probably going to be moving around or maybe even dispersing back into the grass. Switch your baits up. You know, now's that time of year where I kind of start putting the popping frog down. You guys know I like throwing the popping frog, and I start throwing that big easy a little bit more. Throwing a skinny dipper, still throw the swim jig, but play around with your baits, make little tiny changes because your fish aren't going to go that far, but just keep an open mind. You know, once and just fish is slightly different because even though it's still hot to us and I still was sweating to death out there, you know, come noon, it is still warm. We're not in true winter yet, but if you could be ahead of the game and ahead of your competition, ahead of the fish, ahead of everyone else on the lake, you're gonna have a better outcome. So just keep an open mind when out there fishing. And remember, our first wave of spawners always come in October. So we're almost in October now. Fish are gonna start thinking about doing that already. I know that sounds crazy, but from October to June, these fish spawn on this lake. So that's that. All right, this weekend, just trying to, I don't know, I'm kind of wrapping this up, but just so I could act like I know what I'm talking about. We have a 2-day BFL going on this weekend. I am not participating, I will be working. Some people have been asking me how long, or how much weight do you think it's gonna take to win? I don't know, I have the number 46 or 47, I said. It said 47 pounds. For 2 days, I think will win this event. I think whoever's consistent, catches a 23 and a 24 pound bag is gonna do it. And I think that's fair. There's a lot of boats, and I've been running around this lake for 2 days with all of them. The lake's kind of fishing small. Now, I haven't talked to everybody. I don't know what everyone's catching, but a lot of people are fishing on top of each other, which is very common on this lake for these big tournaments, but I think someone's gonna find something special. It may take more than 47, but I doubt it. 40, I'm gonna guess 45 for sure. But 47 pounds I think is gonna do it for 2 days. And here's the cool part. It could honestly, in my opinion, be won from the Kissimmee River all the way to Pelican Bay. All over the J&S too. I mean, the whole lake is fishing good as far as, you know, a whole, you know, it's tough. It is tough out here. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I mean, the bite has been tough, but I'm catching just as many fish in Pelican as I am around Ritta, as I am in Eastwall and Westwall, and so on and so forth. There's just kind of fish dispersed all over. So it should spread out the field a little bit, and hopefully someone finds, you know, a big bag, I'm hoping. Because, I don't know, hopefully someone I know takes home the win. Maybe I'll go to maybe the weigh-in Sunday or something. If people I know are in the top 10, we'll see. I don't know how it's gonna be won, because the weather literally just kind of took a little bit of a change over the weekend. Got this high pressure system, but if I had to take a guess, someone might find them schooling, and I think someone's going to pick up a flipping rod and not put it down for 8 hours both days, and that'll get a 1. So we'll see how that works. Wrapping this up, if you want to book a trip with me, my phone has been blowing up for the past 3 days. A lot of people starting to get their dates in for the winter time. This is not me blowing my head up. Every guide on this lake is going to get busy from now through March, really through May. If you have any consideration of coming down here to book a trip, book it sooner than later because it blows up really fast. I mean, I booked like 7 trips today. People are calling, and a lot of people are not booking one day. They're booking 3, 4, 5 days at a time. So the calendar is going to fill up quick. If you want to fish with me, my phone number is below. The easiest way to get a hold of me is to shoot me a text message. For those of you that have booked trips with me in the past 2 months, know I am a pain in the ass to get a hold of. Be quick and easy. Be very efficient. Text me your name and what you're looking to do, you know, when you're looking to come down and fish. And here's what I've been doing. I've been kind of just had the minute to look at my book. Yes, I have it open. If you say write me down, I will write your phone number down and your name in that spot that you want. And I'll text you, you're in the book, no pressure, you're in there. We're going, give me a day. It might take me 2 days to where I have a minute where I could sit down and it's not 11:30 at night like it is right now. And I can call you guys at a decent hour and we could talk about what to expect. We could ask you what you want to do. You know, do you just want to come down here and go fishing? Or are you looking to come down and try to catch a big one flipping? Whatever the case is, talk out details, where we'll probably be fishing and things like that. You know, get your deposits in and things like that. We can take care of all that, even if it's a day or two later. Just because with work and the baby and the farm, I got a lot going on and I know I'm a pain to get a hold of. But I will get you down in the book so your spot is reserved so you have nothing to worry about. So shoot me a text. You can give me a call if you want. Sometimes I answer. If not, leave me a voicemail and shoot me a text and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And other than that, that's about it. I think it's going to be a very good winter. I really do. The lake looks good. The water's coming up now. I'd like it to stay under 14.5 foot, but we'll see. And we're going to keep an eye on this hurricane. We got a hurricane. Looks like it might direct hit the lake. That's not going to be good. But at the same time, the lake's low enough. Usually the lake's at almost 15 foot by now. It's just around 13, which that's going to, you know, help minimize the damage that the high winds would do to the grass and stuff. So pray for the lake for that. And obviously all of us that are living here around it, hopefully this hurricane makes a big left turn and just goes out there in the Gulf and dissipates, and we'll see. But that's about it. I think I touched on everything. I ran it for, I can't see how long that time is, 35 minutes. Sorry if this was boring. Still working on the podcast stuff, just been busy, but definitely want to get that going. And at the end of the day, my podcast will pretty much just be kind of like this, except I'll probably be talking a little bit slower and I'll have someone in here to talk to and we'll just talk fishing. But that's it. I appreciate all of you guys watching. I appreciate all the kind words and support on the channel. And I appreciate all of you that have called me and booked trips, and can't wait to take you guys out there. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. Helps out a lot. And I will see you guys on the next one. Hopefully I have my 7-Eleven flipping rod in my hand and we're catching some big fish again. So we'll see you then, and tight lines and be safe out there.